and their life needs to be exposed. Martin Luther King was not a saint. The dude was a cheater, a serial cheater, and in a lot of ways a hypocrite. I mean, he was a reverend, so a lot of his actions that we clearly know belied his faith. But we're human beings, and I think by design, we are prone to fall flat on our face into hypocrisy. And I think that human struggle within itself, that human struggle within itself, some of us struggle better and more mightier than others. And those who do struggle mighty and against amazing odds, need to be lauded and remembered as much as possible and exemplified as well. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about some other stuff. This is Brother Taj. Again, you're listening to my show, Hot Button. We will be right back. See, it's on. I just turned it on right now. Testing.
Soul City's back. Mikey, you did it again. Hey, yo, free my nigga Typhy. Hey, yo, when you come home, I'm taking you to vape. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I live a good life. I feel real Gucci. Hey, yo, I'm so sick. I got them real cooties. Time to celebrate. Everyone's home. I spent a long time on the road. The poems from that paper that falls. Man, it's so proud to see a boy grown from such a bad child. I'm on my old style. My agent put me on the interstate. Holiday Inn. Higher Regency, Super 8, back to baggage claim. Went from Amistad to rockin' Jangles chains. Went from putting things on layaway to having change for a rainy day. These chickens want a cash cow. They stuffed the piggy bank, I almost bought the farm. Trying to keep my money straight. I did it for the love, then I did it just because. Didn't do it for the views, didn't do it for the stubs. I did it for my city, now I'ma do it for the us. Got a problem, come and see me, I can do it for the thugs.
Could it be I'm falling in love?
From the page all the way to the stage.
Could it be I'm falling in love?
With the glamour and glitz and all this.
Could it be I'm falling in love?
With the crowd, yeah, they scream so loud.
Could it be I'm falling in love?
With my bars, got I love out. Hey, yo, I'm so hood. Call me Cool Clucks. Hey, yo, I'm so good. I got a few bucks. My city spread love. When I show up, they turn up. When the sound turns up and that kush burns up. You heard us? Double parked in the tour bus, signing autographs like Russell Brand locked out and drunk. The time of our lives, cause our downloads are up. How ironic, it's hard not to think about it much. The green room, the sound check, the show, the tweets, the village and the futon, the rhymes, the beats. They pay me for my speech, like each breath I take is truth. And it comes out in the booth. When they say do you, I say do who? If what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to. The brand is so true, the feeling brand new. The feel is brand new, you call me Grand Blue.
Could it be I'm falling in love?
From the page all the way to the stage.
Could it be I'm falling in love?
With the glamour and glitz and all this.
Could it be I'm falling in love?
With the crowd, yeah, they scream so loud.
Could it be I'm falling in
Yeah,
love?
with my bars, yo, they love when I'm on.
Soul City nastiness.
I need bright lights and a big stage. I need the front row to go, hey, hey. That there to do this her. And if she turn up, then we can get there. I need bright lights and a big stage. I need the front row to go, hey, hey. That there to do this her. And if we light them up, then we can get there. I need bright lights and a big stage. I need the front row to go, hey, hey. That there to do this her. And if she turn up, then we can get there. I need bright lights and a big stage. I need the front row
Hey yo, so we're back. Again, you're listening to me, Brother Taj, on my radio show, my wonderful, dope, crunchy, delicious, big, jagged, wet, dry, hot on fire radio show, Hot Button, broadcasting on the DSOC broadcast network, www.radio.zrock.org and www.radio.daytonstreetoc.com, and of course on my Facebook Live, yo. I also got a little Facebook page. Check it out. Invite your friends on it. Hot Button. The Hot Button radio page is up and running on Facebook. Again, want to say what's up to everybody that's on my live. I really appreciate you guys listening in. Would not to be able to do this without you. Who's on here, man? Let's see who else is on here. All right. So, I think I gave everybody a shout out. I hope I didn't miss anybody, man. He's trying to capitalize. Like that. Yeah. Anticipating. Man, shit, hell yeah, they should anticipate it's going to be successful. And there is a lot of success with, like that Luke Cage joint, yo. That Luke Cage series was so dope. And again, it was an issue like where Luke Cage honestly was kind of like, again, I'm a comic book nerd, right? Luke Cage was clearly like a blaxploitation, where the comic books were like, we're gonna cover everybody and we're gonna create create a character reflect every part of every part of American culture, right? And so, he was created in the 70s and he had a big old afro and a disco shirt. Right, and tight pants. I don't know what was up in those boots, and I don't know why he had a metal headband, but headbands were the thing back then. But it was clearly like, come on, yo. And he was a minor character who had amazing powers, because like he was invulnerable and he had super strong. So he was like a black Superman, but he never really developed. And then he had to have a sidekick, which made it kind of like, of course, the Negro has to have a white sidekick, right? Because even like Iron Fist was a white dude, right? Which maybe like reminded me of like Kung Fu, where Kwai Chang Kang, we didn't pick Bruce Lee, we'll pick the white boy David Carradine, right? So I was kind of like, I didn't know if they were being subtle and satirical, or if they were really just caught up in the whole like we're just going to exploit whatever it is that's popular right now. So he was always this minor character, and the comic books tried to revamp him a couple of times, but it never took off. But this Netflix show, the Luke Cage Power, because his name is Power Man, but they were smart enough to go with Luke Cage. That joint is dope, and I love the fact, again, like. Their whole thing was about like education and literacy, and like Luke Cage is always reading these books. Every book that they showed him reading, I've read. So I'm like, man, these aren't like little Rudy Poo, books. Like, so I really appreciate, really appreciate that show, man. And so I haven't seen the Black Lightning yet, so I'm gonna rely on Damien and whoever else has seen it to recommend it, and then I'll check it out. But I'm hoping that it's good. But yeah, obviously black characters are a trend, because you have Luke Cage, you got Black Panther coming up, you got Black Lightning, who knows what's up. Probably the black dude, the Black Green Lantern guy, got to do that. Or like the Aquaman movie is probably, the villain's got to be a black dude, right? Because it's going to be Black Manta, so it's got to be a black dude in that. In his suit, so who knows? I don't know. I hear you, Eve. Right on. I appreciate you, mama. What up, B? Brandon in the house. Paul, what's up, famo? Dwayne and Antoine, what's going on, man? Dude, Antoine, I haven't like heard you spit lately, man. I gotta catch up with you, man. See what you're doing in the world, man. But it's good to see you, famo. All right, so. All right, let's talk real quickly about these sex dolls. Okay, so I don't know, there's not a whole lot to talk about him, but I felt like I had to say something because there is becoming a trend, right? And I don't know why, except that they're kind of like they've been like, especially these ones that I'm seeing, they've been around for a minute. Pip slapping bad guys while calling them John Turkeys. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Luke Cage was all about like the black exploitation era. Absolutely, Netflix did nice. Yeah. So sex dolls. All right. Yeah, Mandy. Yeah, for real, dude. Look, all y'all who like. So I, real quickly on the tangent, and I do this often, of course, but I have the best timeline on Facebook. Period, yo. And even my like Instagram timeline is popping. But I have people that they're friends of mine who I'm like, I don't care. Like you have to follow them. You gotta follow my coach Chad Corey, man, because he always starts some stuff. And look, the stuff, if you follow Chad, that's one thing. But the stuff that me and Coach talk about offline is even crazier, man. It's so funny. So you gotta follow him at Chad Corey because he's always got great commentary about stuff. Trying to think. So there's two people I want to spotlight. I want to spotlight Chad, and you gotta follow Ruckus, man. Ruckus the Queen, only because, okay, so I'm a Muslim, and I try to be like conservative, and I try to be like politically correct, and I do bad joke Wednesdays, and I'm always picking jokes that are, kind of sort of clean and not like dirty, and even the dark humorous jokes, I'm always, and a lot of people give me jokes and I'm like, nah, I can't, I try to censor myself and censor how I behave and stuff. But Ruckus, so she's a comedian and a poet mixed into one, but she has these posts, man, like her Wednesday hump day shenanigan posts. I can't even talk about them. You just gotta follow her. So Ruckus the Queen and Chad Corey, you gotta follow them too, okay? All right, so sex dolls. Okay, so I imagine, again, I'm not an expert, but the ones that I'm seeing, right, they look lifelike. They're not like the blow-up sex dolls that have the wide open, right, like mouths that look like that, right? You're like, damn, that, like, who would have sex with that, like, beach? It's like a beach ball, right? So, Oscar, what's up, fam? Hey, congratulations on your win, yo. I'm like really, really proud of you and happy for you, man. Keep plugging and let me bump into you in the gym, man, so we can get it in, man. But so proud of you, man. Keep doing your thing, man. So the sex dolls, the traditional sex dolls, they look like blow up, like beach balls, and they look so funny, right? But these ones now, they're like silicone and they're sculpted, and the ones that I imagine they've been around for a minute, right? Like we've had the technology to, be more lifelike with our action figures, right? And so it's not a new thing, I don't imagine. But these ones that are coming out though, they got they really look, and maybe it's because of Westworld. And remember that show? I don't know. I know there was one season of it called Humans, where they have these androids that they're lifelike and stuff, but they have like iPod, they have iPod charger cords in them. But these ones that I've seen, they're really, and then they got, not only are they like more lifelike in terms of because they're silicone, so they're not blow up dolls, right? But now they're at least the latest ones I've seen, they're like, yo, like we're making them like after the video vixens. So they got like big ass hips and big asses and big breasts and they got like, and if you squint and glance out the side of you're like, you don't, like they could almost be like a still picture of somebody in a BET video, right? And that's on the outside. I don't know what the orifices are like. So I don't even like I've seen them naked. I've seen them like the ones I've seen, they got their little clothes on or whatever. But of course, when you click on it, then you get all the ones that are naked and legs spread. You're like, okay. And like clearly this is a man thing, right? I know that there are sex dolls that are male, but they're probably, I don't get the impression they're not as popular. And I think one of my sisters, man, she was like, yeah, they got sex dolls for like male sex dolls, and then she posted a link, and I'm like, I ain't clicking on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, no. Like, what did you post the link for? I actually still have it up. I need to go delete it because I'm like, no, I don't want to see it because I can only imagine what I'm going to see. But here's my thing. This is my whole thing about it because I don't have a whole lot of commentary except it's funny, which a lot of the jokes, like, women, y'all are in trouble because as soon as, like me, I said, look, as soon as somebody puts a microwave in the back of one of them joints, yeah, as soon as they can cook, it's on. And I've seen like commercials where these people who are making them, they're like, yo, we're trying to program it. First of all, it was subtle. This commercial was subtle because like for like a flash of about half a second, you saw a line of them, and they're clearly sex dolls, and they all are like modeled after porn stars, right? So I saw that. I was like, oh, this is not just a generic like Shanae doll. This is like, Jenna Jameson and et cetera, et cetera. And then the guy's talking like he's talking like a computer nerd, and he's like, yes, we're going to program them to be responsive, and we're going to add electrodes so that when you touch them here, they'll be responsive, and the computer chip is going to process information at so many bits per second and also learn about you and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, but what about the sex? Like, get to the sex. Because I saw in the beginning of this that these were actually like porn star dolls. So, and then he's finally got to the point where he's talking about, yes, and we want the responses, they're also going to be sexually. And I'm like, yo, like, this is all bad. And then the joke, it's nothing but, they're all jokes and memes and all that. But here's my thing. Here's my thing. Because it's a lot of women that are salty about this, and I've noticed, and even low-key salty, right? Like one of the sisters was like, I don't give a fuck. And I was like, yeah, I can tell in your little attitude that you really do. And I'm not saying, look, I'm not stupid enough to imagine that a doll is going to replace a woman. Like, let's be clear. And so it's all of this is, I understand it from satire, and I understand it from sarcasm and dark humor. The reality is nothing is going to ever replace a woman. But my thing is, like, I don't see maybe part, because I'm like, why are women so upset? Because it's just a silicone doll. And then I saw this, I saw this guy make a comment like, look, don't get upset. These are just dolls. They got fake butts and they got fake breasts and it's all silicone. And then he was like, wait, oh, maybe y'all are in trouble. Because guess what? Women are doing that anyway. Injecting themselves with all kinds of silicone and everything's fake, from their eyelashes to everything else. And it's like, so this is just something that's a little bit more faker. That's all. And at the end of the day, like, I was like, for me, I was like, this is just a big dildo. Like, you guys got them, they just fit in your little nightstand, and, they don't come attached to a dude for the most part. I'm sure that all the sisters, I said, pointed out, there are those. They are out there, but, like, it's like, come on, it's just a big male, I don't want to say that because that doesn't sound right. It is the equivalent to, a female's dildo. So, I am I crossing the line? We're on cable though. I mean, we're on the internet. So anyway, I think that that's funny, and it's an interesting trend. It'll be interesting to see how much technology and how much more will be added and how much more technologically advanced these things become. Because as soon as they start walking on their own, or as soon as they start like gyrating, because I imagine they don't gyrate right now. I mean, these things cost $3,000, like almost $3,000, man. And I'm wondering how well that they sell or not. Don't. You know, I'm gonna be honest with you, Eve. Look, ain't a whole bunch of dudes really like going. If anything, they're a novelty. I'm still deflated. Yeah, stupid. Damien's dumb. These things are a novelty at best. Honestly, look, they are no more threat, and they shouldn't. They are no more threat. Like men don't have. We don't go on campaigns against dildos and vibrators. Honestly, like if anything. If there was a campaign to go on, you would imagine that men would just be anti-dildo. We'd burn them all and burn down the factories and all that. It ain't that big of a deal, yo. Honestly, it really ain't. So, all right, moving on. So, one of the things that, and I think I'm going to talk about this in another show coming up soon, is just the pervasiveness of Islam in popular culture. I'm actually kind of working on an essay about it. Sister can't do it like me, Kendra. I would say I agree. You get no argument from me, Kendra. I will never say that a silicone woman, and it's not even a woman, a doll, can do anything that a woman can do except like not catch on fire. No. Hey, but my man Chad, he was like, so if they program it to talk, because the guy was like, we're gonna program it to response and have a conversation, and Chad posted this funny ass meme that was like, you know, as soon as it starts talking, and especially says something that you women always say that starts, we know it's going to be the start of a conversation we don't want to have. He was like, I'm taking the batteries out. That's the only advantage that they would have if they start talking, is that we can just unplug them jokes. But I suspect they'll get advanced enough where they'll have another power source, and then they'll be like, I can't believe you tried to shut me up. So that's gonna happen. Travis, stay woke. Right. Word up, Eve. Still deflating. Damien's gonna be deflating for a long time. Anyway, enough about the sex dolls. Sex dolls versus nightstands. Anyway, so I'm working on this essay about the pervasiveness of Islam in popular culture, and that's really just a reflection of pervasiveness of Islam and I'm saying American popular culture. That Islam has always been around and in American culture. We just have either not known about it because of just a lack of education and or our own prejudices and the blindness of our prejudices. But as a Muslim, it's always interesting to see, especially in popular culture, how Islam, it pops up here and there. There was an interesting, so you guys heard that song, it was called Plain Jane, right? And I want to say, who does that? I want to say Yo Gotti, but where they use like the word Alhamdulillah. And it's so funny because I listen to it and I think about our brothers and sisters where we hear this song, it's like straight up trap music, but it's like, they're like, okay, Alhamdulillah, okay. And then like, we all heard like Jay-Z's joint, and where, again, he says this, he drops, Alhamdulillah there, and in the video, throws the hands up in this sort of the characterized Muslim dua or supplication, and this is his joint Family Feud, and for me, again, like, some you have like the spectrum, and on one end it's like, oh my God, it's blasphemy, like these non-Muslims or wannabe Muslims or pseudo-Muslims or not even Muslims are like stealing from our religion and trying to pasteurize it and then commercialize it in rap music and how dare they, and astaghfirullah, like how dare they do that and make our religion profane. And I get it, and I actually agree to a small degree, but I think the bigger part of me is like, I'm not surprised. It's kind of like if you go to Philly, like those of you know about Philly, especially like the hood or the black part of Philly, which is most of Philly, but Islam, in a cultural sense, is like really like imbued in the black culture of Philly, right? So much so that the dress, like there's a very conservative style of dress in Islam, especially for the brothers. For the women, it's like straight what we call niqab, which is the face veil. So you see a lot of sisters in public that are covered from head to toe. But for the brothers, there's a conservative sort of ideal of Islam that has this ideal about dress, and it is reflected in where they wear their pants like either high waters or cut very high. And that's a reflection on their tradition to not wear garments that are so long that they drag in the dirt. Because that's more of an arrogant thing. Like people would, in the time of the Prophet, so this is 6th and 7th century, people would like wear their garments long, and so they could trail in and they didn't wear pants. They wore like a sheet wrapped around their waist, called the izar for men. It's called the izar, and they would if they wanted to like be boastful and be flossing. They were like, well, my garment can be so long it could trail in the dirt because I could just buy a new one. That's kind of how that was. And so there was an Islamic tradition to not do that because that's arrogance and it's showing off. And so that tradition has sort of evolved because a lot of us don't wear izars, we wear pants. And so that tradition has evolved to where the pants are, some people who have that very conservative view and follow this tradition very closely, they cut their pants so that they're high waters. I personally don't follow that in the sense, I understand it, but I don't think that counts, because I see a lot of brothers, they wear like their high water pants, but then they wear the latest Jordans or Gators, and I'm kind of like the shoes are what But anyway, but so a lot of this style of dress, and obviously the growing of the beard, which is an Islamic thing. And so you'll see a lot of non-Muslims in Philly, like brothers who are not even Muslim, who have their pants high and they got the beard. And you roll up on, you be like, "Assalamu alaikum." They'd be like, "Oh, no, I'm not Muslim." You're like, "Why are you dressed like one?" But that's because the culture has permeated, or the Islamic culture has permeated the greater culture at large. And so in a large part, we see those things now like happening more and more, where now people are like making reference to Arabic litanies, because Alhamdulillah is like a litany. It means praise due to God. And then like the remix of Plain Jane with Nicki Minaj, where she says MashaAllah, and I'm like, oh my God, like what's happening here? Like Islam is spreading so much that even the bozos like Nicki Minaj are like understanding, the Islamic Arabic parts. And maybe not though, but it rhymes. So anyway, so I thought that was interesting. And then you have we in the greater part in terms of like popular culture, it's generally music. and maybe some celebrities, like especially in sports world, we know that Muslims have made a splash in the sports world from ever since like Muhammad Ali and Jamal Wilkes and that era to today, where we have Muslims all throughout the major sports, and and people that we don't like people don't know in general, like Shaquille O'Neal's a Muslim. People don't really know that. Dave Chappelle is a Muslim. Ice Cube is a Muslim. And it's generally because our practices differ. Islam is not as monolithic as people think, and our levels of faith and how we exemplify that faith in our everyday lives, it differs because people are different. But the belief in general, they're pretty much the same. So it's interesting. Kevin Gates is an interesting, kind of one of the latest interesting sort of aspects, because he's Muslim, sort of a new convert, but he's trap music, and then he converted kind of in the midst of that, and it's he's an interesting guy. He just got out of prison, serving time for an assault, a simple battery that he did. I think I think he had some other stuff going on, which. And I'm not 100% sure. There's so many rappers going to prison these days. But he just got out of prison. He actually, there was a fan who was grabbing on him while he was in concert, and he kicked her. And his whole thing was she kept grabbing me and grabbing my pants and grabbing on and so but I saw the video and I was like, bruh, like you like kicked her like a football. Which and the grab that I saw, because he said she had did it several times. And I've seen that as working security and working for guys on stage. I've seen where people will like grab a celebrity, but they'll like tug on their pants because they're trying to get their attention and trying to they're usually trying to give them a card or a number or something. They're trying to get their attention so that they get called backstage. It's kind of that groupie type stuff. But Kevin, booted her, kicked her in the chest, and got charged with simple battery and ended up doing 9 months in prison, 9 months on the 30 because it was like a federal charge, I think. No, it couldn't have been, because he wouldn't have been out. But anyway, did 9 months on the 30-month sentence and just got out. And this guy is interesting because he's like tattooed from head to toe, got like a cross in the middle of his forehead, little tiny cross. And back before he's Muslim, he was just straight up whatever. And probably Christian, and maybe the cross is what I don't really know the story of the cross, but it made a splash when he converted to Islam, and he was all of a sudden overseas running around in Muslim countries and stuff. It shocked a lot of people. Didn't shock me, and maybe disappointed some people because he wasn't he didn't do like Napoleon Beale did, or like Loon did, where they converted and then totally rejected music. He's still like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is Muslim, but he didn't become like a monk or a clerk, become an imam or a scholar in Islam. They, still struggle and stuff. But Kevin Gates is interesting because this dude, he's got the tattoos and all this, the trappings of of today's rapper, and this dude's got he's got a master's degree in psychology. Like a trap music rapper who's a Muslim with a master's degree. I thought that was pretty interesting. You never know who you're dealing with these days. Okay, yeah, Malik says he violated probation. So yeah, I figured it was something because he kicked her. I wouldn't imagine that you just go to prison because you kick somebody, but I'm not surprised because I went to prison on some BS. I didn't do that. David says I blame the social media age. Interesting. So in that vein, I want to talk about Aziz Ansari, and then I want to talk about what Damien brought up. So Aziz Ansari is this comedian. I think his family, he's American born. I think his parents immigrated from India. I think like the southern, close to Bengali, or not Bengali, but maybe like Sri Lanka part, like because his people are like Tamil. The Tamil people have been in a long struggle, civil war in the southern part of India. They're generally not Muslim, so it was interesting. His family is Muslim, and he was raised Muslim, and he claims to be Muslim. So I thought it was interesting to find out that he was Tamil and Muslim, because they generally are like, they're secular, or they're like secular Buddhists. And it's the Tamils. There's a sect, a political radical sect amongst the Tamil people that they called the Tamil Tigers, that was fighting against the government and fighting some other factions. And these guys are kind of known for like starting the use of suicide bombs, suicide vests. They actually actually, to be honest, they got the design from Japan. The people don't know that after World War II, a lot of Japanese were mercenaries. And World War II, at the end of World War II, the idea of suicide, like the kamikaze, wasn't just a pilot thing. It was actually a philosophy. And he violated probation. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. It was a philosophy to martyr yourself in battle. And a lot of Japanese mercenaries left Japan and found like work all in other parts of Asia, and also so in other parts of Asia, and they even in parts of in the Middle East as well. The first suicide bombing that happened in Israel, in Israel was carried out by a Japanese person. Didn't know that, did you? So this idea of like, people I think that like suicide bombing is like Islamic. Like it's like you are the most faithful Muslim if you strap a bomb to yourself and blow yourself up. But that's not been the idea of martyrdom. The idea of martyrdom was stuff like traditional stories of Muslims who were fighting a battle, and it's against all odds, and I'm fighting for the sake of my religion, so I'm not going to run. And in fact, I'm going to fight to the death. And in fact, this armor is so heavy, I'm actually going to take it off so I can fight faster. And if I get killed, I go to heaven. And if I don't get killed, I win. That's martyrdom. Not, I'm going to put a bomb on myself and blow myself up. Like, that was a very new and a foreign idea. So it's always funny because amongst the radicals, one of the ideas that radicals have is to be anti-foreigner, right? Like anti-pagan and anti-infidel. It's like, yo, like suicide bombing came from the infidels. So why did you adopt this practice and then try to portray it as Islamic? It's totally hypocritical and ironic. Anyway, Aziz Ansari, comedian, has become very, very popular, was one of the good guys. Like, the kind of the cornball Indian guy, right? The cornball Indian guy who's lovable. That's pretty much how he sort of has sort of parlayed himself in his character. And he just recently won a Golden Globe for one of his specials. And it was interesting because lately, as his popularity grew, he became a little bit more political in the things that he talked about racism, and talked about like sexual harassment. And so it's like one of the was called like one of the wokest people in America, right? Like people just loved him, especially women, because interesting, at the Golden Globes, he was there with the pin Time's Up, that Time's Up pin that was like the support of the Me Too, support of the Me Too campaign. And it was interesting that this scene, or this appearance on the red carpet, is what catalyzed a woman to write a story, or give her story to a blog, a feminist blog, where she was like, I don't want to say that he raped her as much as certainly like she basically made it like he just kind of like pressured me into sexual acts. And can this accusation and the way that she framed the story can certainly put him in the light of people like Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey and others who have been caught up in this blitzkrieg, the Me Too blitzkrieg, and I read the article. I read the article where the reporter was relating her story, and it's well written, and it seemed to be because they didn't just like say go to her story. They took her cell phone and they like checked the records on her cell phone, the phone records, and researched the phone numbers, and they found out that when she says I've been texting this dude, they looked. Got the phone number, did a background search on the phone number, it goes right to him. So they're like, well, she's not lying about that. Then at that day or that evening, she had been texting her friends about the date that she was on with this dude. And so they went to the friends and they were like, can we see your cell phone? And they looked and saw that, yeah, there were these exchanges, and they talked to the friends. So there's a lot of background, sort of work being done by this reporters to verify the story that they relate, without giving you like the gruesome details. Like I tried to, I went away from this feeling a couple of things. One, like how much of a cornball that Aziz Ansari really is, and that I wondered if his cultural upbringing, both as a sort of a second generation immigrant and as a Muslim. So as a second generation immigrant, he's not an immigrant, so I can't say that. That's dumb. He's not an immigrant, but as the first generation from immigrant parents and as a Muslim, I wondered how these, and as a Muslim whose Islam is also not like so much American as it is from the old country. How much does that create this inept, socially awkward cornball, right? But then, so that's one thing. So he doesn't know how to talk to women or relate to them, and then he gets successful. So then he becomes a douchebag. So now, like, you have a dude who's a cornball and a douchebag all together because he's successful. He's like, because this dude, the way the date went down, he met this woman in New York, met her in California at a party. They talked, exchanged numbers, talk. Then they reunited in New York, because I think they were both from New York anyway. And he's like, let's go, goes to dinner, orders dinner real quickly, doesn't finish the dinner, takes her back to the apartment, and then tries to have sex with her. Has oral sex with her, and then tries to make her have return the favor, and she does. But as she's relating this whole thing, like it's all awkward, it's what she doesn't want. And let me just address some of the backlash, because this is one of the first stories where there's a lot of backlash against the accuser, because she went to his apartment, she went to his apartment. She let him perform oral sex on her. And then it wasn't like he like grabbed her and like made her perform oral sex. So she did it like pretty much what we all assumed is voluntarily, right? It wasn't like, he was violent or threatened her or whatever. And so the backlash is, what the hell were you doing, lady? Right? Now, I want to be careful, because I don't want to characterize this as the sort of defense of like, if I walk, like women will be like, if I walk down the street in a bikini, I'm not inviting rape. I agree with that. I have no argument against that. I do have another argument around it. Probably not a good idea to walk down the street in a bikini. Like, just don't do that. Like, why do you want to do that? I do feel that women are conditioned to do things to make themselves attractive to men. And then they got to deal with the attraction that is unwanted and unnecessary and it's abusive and all of that. But I feel like, and then they come back and say, I'm a human and I'm not a piece of meat and you're objectifying me. And I'm like, come on, let's there's got to be some honesty in this. There are things that women wear that they say, like, I just want to feel sexy. And I'm like, but isn't sexy about sex? And generally, in most cases, sex with the opposite sex, right? So for women, feeling sexy is generally about sex with men. And so if you want to feel sexy and dress sexy, you're not just doing it for yourself, because there's a component there of sexiness that has to do with sex, which has to do, generally, sex has to do with like more than one person. In most cases, it's people of the opposite sex. So it's like, how do you ignore that? How do you expect the opposite sex to ignore it? And what is sexy to you is generally based on what attracts you, right? Like, I don't want to be sexy to somebody that I'm not sexually attracted to. I just don't want it. I don't want to walk down the street and have a dog come and hump on my leg. I am not attracted to a dog, and I'm like, damn, did I put on, did I step in a steak? Did I sit in a hot, like, what is it that made this dog run over here and hump on my leg? Like, so I feel like this is how women deal with men. Like, you walk down the street and we're going to hump on your leg, and you're like, I don't want this dog humping on my leg. But if I walk down the street and a woman comes and she's, if it's Halle Berry and she pats me on the booty, I'm going to be like, yes, the cologne I put on is working, right? Like, I'm be honest. We got to be honest about this. So the backlash against this girl was to the degree. So I think clearly, like, her going over to his apartment, it's a little bit different. Like, I don't feel like I should clown her for that, because I'm clear in my mind. I think she went over there with understanding that dude wanted to have sex, and maybe because I want to treat her like a human being, she probably wanted to have sex too. Nothing wrong with that. The problem is that you really don't know what you're getting until you get over there, right? Like, you can go to a person's apartment with all the intention and get over there, and then you're like, oh yeah, this was a bad idea. And I think that's what happened. And it is his fault. See, that's my thing. Like, she got over there, she went over there to have sex, and the first thing that he did was, like, go down on her, and I could see in her mind, she's like, oh, okay, right? Like, not a problem. But maybe during that, she got all the signals that said, this dude is an ogre, right? He's a troll. I don't want to go further than this. Now, I understand his thing of, if I did that, I need some reciprocity. I get that. But I still feel that it's the onus is on him to understand that at some point, you may have to stop. And that at some point, whatever your expectation is, it's got to go out the window as your expectation, and you got to caretake this woman. And I say that because of, screw equality and all of that stuff. I don't believe in that crap anyway. We're not equal, okay? I say that because I truly believe that men, in a general sense, have done enough damage to women that we are now dealing with the aftermath of our Godzilla stomping through Japan, at some point the Japanese are like, "Oh, we can't deal with this anymore. Like the Japanese will be scared. The Japanese are scared of lizards, like the little geckos. Why? Because of what Godzilla did, and the geckos now have to deal with that, right? And I just feel like we have stomped through Tokyo so much that now we're just dealing with the damage that we've caused. And that means that there's a greater responsibility for us as men to make some room for that. And so men have to learn, and I think they have to learn as boys, and I certainly learned it. My father and my mother made sure, and maybe I was the exception, that at some point, no matter how aroused you are, and no matter how down the road to home base you are, at some point you might get thrown out. It just, and you have to be prepared for that. Aziz Ansari was not prepared for that because he's such a cornball. He made it clear, because when she texted him, said, "Look, what went down, I was not comfortable with. You made it like bad," and he was like, "I have no idea. I clearly didn't see the signals." And I'm like, based on how she narrated it, and again, I'm assuming that it's true, but I'm also knowing that I'm clearly taking her side. Taking for granted that what she's saying is the truth, and there were enough signals to be like, yo, this is probably not going the way I want it to go. Like, when she's like, let's just chill, right? Like, that's not what you want to hear. Like, that is like the opposite of let's go to the bedroom, right? Like, we're going forward. If she says, let's just sit and chill, you know what? It's time to, like literally Netflix and chill. And if you can be a douchebag and just be like, all right, we've chilled for about 20 minutes. Let me go ahead and call you an Uber. And then I'm going to go get my sex doll out. Because, maybe not the sex doll, but maybe I'm going to call an escort service. Because I'm Aziz Ansari and I'm a superstar. I can do that. But for him to not see that this was not, you just gotta be a cornball, yo. And maybe, my position or way I'm seeing it is not so popular with the fellas, but this dude, it's clear that this dude didn't know what the hell he was doing and what the hell he was dealing with, and it's clear that his popularity and his success and his wealth has gone to his head, because again, he was like, I'm trying to frame it in a bigger picture. You meet somebody in one state, you meet them in another state, and you just whisk through dinner and go to bed. Like that. Like, you do that with like an escort, right? You don't just generally do that. Like, especially like if you had some long distance in there. Like New York and LA, that's a bit of a long distance. Like, there's gonna be some time in between for talking, right? Like, and understanding and kind of figuring out how a person is. Maybe not who they are, but how they are. So that when I meet you, I'm not just like, well, we've talked a little bit, and so let's just go screw each other. Like, I don't know, man. Like that. Like, the person that would do that is the cornball douchebag who's clueless. Like, that's who does that type of stuff. But the bigger portion for me is the fact that this dude's Muslim. Because I'm like, man, you just, like, look, the reality is, like, we all believe in God, and for the most part, we make that belief evident in some way, shape, or form in our life. That is, and I'm just speaking for my community and my faith, and I'm not speaking against any others and saying that others don't do that. But the one thing that attracted me about Islam, when I began studying religions and kind of falling into how do I exemplify my spirituality, I found that Islam does that to a great extent. And that's what attracted me to it. And if not in comparison to any other religion, it was like there's belief and then there's the action that supports the belief. The reality, though, is the people that are Muslim, just like anyone else, are human beings. And we are stupid and we are forgetful. And we are not, and we're hypocrites because we put pressure on ourselves. And I say this from experience. When I became Muslim and I converted to Islam, and I was like, the teaching is that you're pure and you're clean and your soul has been cleansed of all your prior sins and you are damn near an angel. And if you were to die in that state, straight to heaven, right? That's a lot of pressure. Like converts do not understand, or people at the advent of converting do not understand how much pressure that is. To be like, oh, I'm like an angel now. When the reality is you are nothing like an angel. You are like by design to be the opposite of an angel. And you will make mistakes. And if you're a man, you are going to compound the mistake with the idea of fear that somebody will see you fail. And don't let that somebody be someone close to you, like a spouse or a community that you're in charge of. That is a lot of pressure and a lot of failure. So the reality is, as Muslims, we struggle with everything that everyone else has struggled. So when I see a Muslim like Aziz Ansari or anyone else who's screwing a bunch of women, I don't lose my mind and I don't rip my hair out and I don't get so judgmental about that person. Because I know a lot of people who are, I don't say a lot of people, but I know individuals who are portrayed as pious and the best examples of Islam, and they are straight hypocrites and criminals and deviants. And that it comes out in the wash, right? Like scholars who are lecturers about Islam and have been lecturers and leaders for years, and then it comes out that they got DMs of dick pics that they've been sending to sisters who wear headscarves and face veils. Like that's reality though. No different. And it sucks to bring up this extreme, but it ain't no different than priests diddling little boys. So that how his story, Aziz's story, will pan out is going to be interesting. Because, again, you got the backlash against old girl, and you got his sort of cornball innocentness. But I hope that he learns that he's a douchebag. And I say this to say, if you understand it, then you can correct it. Like what he did, and anyone else who's done the things that he's done, straight douchebaggery. Sorry. Let me see some comments here. Mike Tyson's date with Desiree Washington. Bingo. Except Mike. I say it was similar, except that he didn't. I don't know, because there's still the question of really what went down. But Mike is much more of an ogre. He's got that ogreness and trollness about him. So the rape, the rape charge. I mean, if old girl could have pressed it. If she wanted to press it, she could have been like, he forced me to perform oral sex, and then it would have been the same as Mike Tyson. So who's watching, man? First of all, I can give some shout outs, man. Chago, my coach, is watching. What's up? Us, Danette. Hope you're safe over in LA. Tasha, what's going on, mama? And thank you. Big T in the house. Big T is like, I can't see his profile pictures because he's so big. It just looks like a round circle. Robert, what's up? Abdul Malik, Assalamu alaikum, and Tina, what's up, mama? Hope you're doing well. Mad love for you. Got love for you. I'm gonna take you out on a date one of these days. Watch. All right. So, I'm I want to end up. I want to end my show talking real briefly on, um, talking real briefly on, um, something. So along the same lines of Islam, there's so Damien brought up this issue about Muslims who drop the Hadith and follow only the Quran. So I want to, for all my non-Muslim peoples out there, I want to explain that in Islam there are two sources for how we draw out the tenets of Islam. The one source is the Quran, and the other source is the life example of the Prophet Muhammad. And that is preserved primarily through a body of literature that we call hadith. The word hadith means a report. So it's generally, in a general sense, it's something, a report where someone has said, I saw the Prophet Muhammad do this, or I heard him say this. And then we take that and we use it to extrapolate, and based on what he said and did, this is what we should follow, this example, and do this, this, or this. Now that body of literature was collected over a long period of time, and it began actually sometime after his death in terms of the collection and then the refinement and going through to see if some of the reports were lies, some of the reports were kind of sort of true, maybe not so reliable. Just a whole science in terms of categorizing them. And then people use these two sources to sort of create both Islamic law and practices. Okay. There are Muslims who feel like because the Hadith isn't on par with the Quran is considered the literal word of God, word for word, like a big quote of God's. And whereas the Hadith is just someone reporting what they heard and saw and what they observed. And so obviously the two don't occupy the same sort of level hierarchy, except they're both used. The Hadith, again, is supposed to symbolize the life example. And the life example of the Prophet Muhammad is on par with the Quran. They are actually on the same level. But, of course, his example is what you see or what you hear. So, of course, and so there are small factions of Muslims who totally reject the use and the reference of hadith literature. And they're like, look, the only way that we can really establish Islam and Islamic practice is to follow the Quran. And it's an interesting position. It makes sense on one degree, but the Quran itself makes reference to using the Prophet's life example. So it's kind of like they kind of that argument is oftentimes illogical, because a lot of the practices of Islam are not found in the Quran. Most people know that we pray 5 times a day. The actual way and the manner in which we pray is not found in the Quran. It's found through the instruction of the Prophet, which is preserved in the Hadith literature. So for a person who says, I'm going to be a Muslim only by following the Quran, they miss a lot of things. And then they create these silly arguments to try to, because you throw that at them, and they create these goofy arguments to try to argue around it. But the reality is, it's sort of like if I give you an analogy, like in Judaism, you have the scripture, you have the books, and then you have the commentary of the rabbinical commentary of the Talmud, right? And those two things are, generally they go together. So imagine if someone said, we're going to reject all of the Talmud and just look at the first 5 books and then try to establish Jewish life in 2018. You'd probably laugh at them, right? Because you'd find that almost ridiculous. In a similar vein, that's how this is. And it's interesting. Damien, I actually had a conversation with a young lady, and it was like, I had just met her, and it was the first thing, and I was like, she was like, I don't follow any, hadith. I just follow the Quran. And I was like, so I used a couple of examples, and then it was like this awkward silence. Cause see, it was so funny. It was like this awkward silence, and it was like I was like, yeah, so you're dumb, and I'm just gonna hang up on you now. And I was just like, I felt bad, but I was just like, that this just ends up how it goes. But here's what's interesting about that, Damien, is there's Colorado has a little bit of connection with this faction, or at least part of this faction. There was a very, very popular faction in Arizona, and they had a person, his name was Rashad Khalifa, who was like their leader, and he was kind of the proponent of, we only follow the Quran and we reject anything outside of it. But then he used the Quran to say that he was a prophet, and he got a lot of followers, and he was very, very popular. In fact, any of you know Ahmad Rashad from NBC and NBA, and the coverage of the NBA. He was actually he's a convert to Islam, but he was actually a follower of this faction, and many of them kind of have taken Islam and created their own flavor. They don't even call themselves Muslims; they call themselves submitters, which is like a loose translation of the word Muslim. But it's interesting because the guy he was considered a heretic, the leader, and he was actually assassinated, and the faction who is like suspected and accused of assassinating him, some of those guys lived in Colorado, or who were connected. They themselves weren't necessarily the ones that killed him, but they were part of this faction. And some of them lived in Colorado. Some of them got caught up in some other stuff, and a couple of them are actually in prison in Colorado right now. But it's an interesting thing for Muslims. In this country, we struggle to live our faith in a secular society, which actually allows us to live our faith, and we also struggle with a source that's 1,400 years old, and we struggle. And I don't say struggle in the pejorative sense. We struggle or put the effort, because we have to try and make those sources relevant to today, and it is a struggle, and then it's a struggle to then follow the conclusions that you come up with. I am a product of that struggle. Want to give you an example, Damien, since you brought it up. One of the practices that men do in Islam that's not found in the Quran is we grow our beard. There is a tradition linked to the Prophet who instructed the Muslims to grow their beard and to shave their mustache, primarily to differ from a faction of pagans who part of their religious practice was to grow a long, long mustache and shave their beard. And so one tradition says that the Prophet then ordered the Muslims to then grow a beard and shave their mustache. Other traditions say that he did say this, but it wasn't necessary. They don't necessarily link it to look different than the other pagans. It just became this traditional practice to then we call it like an act of fitra or nature. So it's kind of a physical thing that we do to exemplify the fact that we are Muslim. I liken it, and I don't want to equate it to, but it's very close to the Nazirite rituals among the Judaic traditions, where a person would dedicate their offspring to the service of God for a certain amount of time, and that person was prohibited from cutting their hair. They had to grow their hair. For males, it was their hair and their facial hair, and for women, it was their hair as well. And we know that Samson is a famous Nazirite, but most people don't realize from an Islamic tradition, actually Mary, the mother of Jesus, was also under the Nazirite rituals as well. But anyway, so I grow my beard. I have what I call a struggle beard. I say struggle beard because I don't want to use the word jihad beard, but it struggles. Like, and I don't know my genetic makeup. A lot of us African Americans, we're like, I'm part Indian. You're really part white. But I just have the genetic makeup where my beard, I got a lot of brothers, man. Their beard, their beard makes me want to get a weave, like a beard weave, right? Which is like forbidden in Islam. But I have a struggle beard, but I grow it. I grow it, and I shave my mustache. But my beard only grows on my chin, so it's always, and my mustache just connects to the beard, and I have a natural goatee. I have no hair on my cheeks except for like 4 on one side and maybe 5 on the other, like little punk cat whiskers. But I cannot grow a full beard. And on the occasion that I was actually in prison, and most people know that I had the unfortunate ordeal of going to prison. I actually went twice in my life, but I actually went recently on some trumped up charges, and actually went back on a trumped up parole violation. And during the course of that revisit to prison, I was ordered to shave my beard, and this is a violation of my constitutional rights. Even though people. A lot of the backlash to this story, because it is a story. It's actually, you can find it in the Denver Post. You're in prison. You don't have any rights, and that is a very common sort of viewpoint. That is as stupid as black people dance very well, and as prevalent, right? So, or that white people cannot dance at all. Which is prevalent, although I venture to guess that it might have some truth to it. I'm kidding, but anyway, so I was ordered to shave my beard, punishment of solitary confinement, and so, but in clear violation. I mean, no matter what you think about people in prison, the reality is they do have rights, and one of those rights is to practice their faith in a way, as long as that practice does not violate, the security of the prison. And there's federal law that actually mandates exception of growing hair, and especially facial hair for Muslims. So the reality is it was a clear violation. And one of the interesting things is that it created a debate, and this is not the first time, but there's a debate like, do you have to grow your beard because it's not in the Quran? That is a debate because it's not in the Quran, but it is in the Hadith literature, and it is assumed to be an authentic tradition of practice linked to the Prophet Muhammad. So anyway, I said all I'd say. I filed suit earlier this month. I'm actually going to my first hearing on Wednesday in federal court, and unless barring, God knows best, and I have no control over anything. I can't even find my keys most days. But my assumption, and I'm okay with making an assumption to some accuracy, because I got this far. I had to do a lot of things just to get this far to file a suit, and I did those things and did them well. And so I'm hoping that as things progress, as I imagine that they will, that the government will, if they're smart, will at least settle the case, and understanding that what they did was a clear violation. There's no use in fighting the case and risking millions and millions of dollars. But who knows? It's the government, and I'm Muslim, so that in and of itself can give them impetus to just be douchebag cornballs. But anyway, so I wanted to drop that. Thanks, Damien, for sort of bringing that up. Want to run through real quick with the vast. Women expect others to respect their right to look however they want, while also controlling their mouths and keeping their body parts less. Do something with the women. No argument. No argument. Except you use the word expect, And I don't know, like from a moral standpoint, yeah, of course they expect that. But I think from a rational standpoint, I don't know that that expectation is as rational when your choices, because you can make any choices that you want, but I think the caveat lies in the choice, or not the caveat, but the issue, the crux, not caveat. The crux is based on the choices. And again, I'm not going to argue that women should wear the dress of Amish in public. Like that is, I don't, look, my ideas about what people should do is informed by my faith, but also by reality. And not everybody believes the same way that I do, and I don't expect them to, and I don't want them to. So I believe in the right for people to do what they feel that they want to do. You should be able to wear what you want to wear. I don't, and look, I'm clear. I think if you walk down the street butt naked, I think that it is okay to not be raped. Like I don't see a woman butt naked walking down the street as an invitation for me to rape them, ever. And I don't know that it ever is an invitation, not just to me, but to any person. Period. There is no excuse for rape. There is no such thing as an invitation to rape, because rationally, if it's an invite, there's no rape. But the assumption that someone is doing something to invite abuse and all of that, I totally reject, and I support the notion of women to be safe. Period. I default to that, even to the detriment of ideas that we have as men. Women have to be safe. I as a Muslim, it is a clear edict issued in the Quran that men are the protectors and supporters of women. That's our goal. That's our job. And so I find that raping and abusing and violating is a violation of that edict by God Himself. And so there's no argument there. But we have this thing. There's a tradition in Islam where a guy had a camel, and he would travel. He traveled with it, and then he said, he went into town, and he said, God, just watch my camel, and then left, assuming that because he asked God to watch over his camel, that his camel was going to be good. He came back and his camel was gone. So he was upset. He's like, yo, like of all the people I told to watch over my camel, I asked you, God, so why the hell is my camel gone? I'm paraphrasing because I'm sure he didn't say that. And God was like, answered him and said, look, no, actually, I'm sorry. God didn't say, let me say. He related this story to the prophet. And the prophet was like, yo, like, believe in God. Like, don't let this, like, diminish your belief. But tie your damn camel. Like, right? So, believe you can have and support this virtue that women don't deserve abuse. But tie your camel. That's all I'm saying. But that also goes for men as well. Understand that your job really is to be very clear. I don't care who you are. I don't care in what situation you are. To be very clear that women are not to be abused and coerced and pressured. I don't believe in pressuring a woman to this. I don't know anything about that because it doesn't seem natural to me. Where I have to pressure somebody to have sex. That is so foreign to me. You're a douchebag. Sorry, you're a douchebag on a cornball if you don't get that. I don't care who you are. And Aziz Ansari is the epitome of that. And I hope that this is a lesson for him, and hope it's a lesson for all of us involved. Hey, I'm done for the day. What you think, Z-Rock? We're gonna get out of here. We got a great weekend coming up. It's my birthday. I'm not really doing anything big. I am going to go see Bill Bellamy. So if you get a chance, check him out at the Denver Improv this weekend. Come holler at me Sunday there. And then come holler at me at Purple Martini, the hottest spot in the place. I feel weird as a Muslim, like promoting a nightclub, though. I'm gonna be honest with you. But I'm there. I'm security. So I feel like I'm doing something that has some virtue to it. I don't drink and I don't really get down with drinking and all that. My job, I really feel like, people just, if you're going to make a choice to go and do something to have fun and do whatever, you should be safe. And that's my job. And if I have to knock you out and choke you out and drag you and sit you up by the wall to do it, hey, sometimes that's what happens. But anyway, it's my birthday weekend, so happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to all my Aquariuses that got birthdays this week and coming up in this month. Speaking of Aquarius, Black Panther opens on February the 16th, which happens to be my daughter's birthday, so she's a dope ass Aquarius as well. So guys, make sure you survive. I didn't talk about Trump today. Yeah, I didn't. We didn't, but I didn't have nothing to say. But I will definitely have some stuff next week for you. But as I said, our goal as Black people is just to survive to the 16th. And so we can see that movie. Hey, Mos Def is coming out to Colorado too on the 10th of February. Yep. Talib Kweli is also coming out here. First of all, they're both coming out here because it's really Black Star. So that's the duo. And then Talib is also performing out, I think doing a solo joint out in Boulder as well. But February 10th, both of them joints is coming out here. So mad props to the brother, my Muslim brother, Yasin Bey, and Talib Kweli. Talib is not Muslim, but definitely salams out to him as well. But come out for that. I'm going to be at that joint. So we're going to kind of do a roll call and see who else is going to come out. Let me know if you're going to roll, man. We just, get together and posse up. Some of y'all I haven't seen in a long time, man. So make sure you let me know you're coming. And if you see me, you make sure that you don't let me get by you or walk by you without you saying what's up, man, because this is a great opportunity for us to come together for some great music. So do that there. That's it, y'all. This has been a wonderful Friday. Hope you guys have a wonderful and safe weekend. As always, I'll leave you with the same mantra: be better. Hope you had a better weekend than last weekend. I hope that Saturday is a better day than today, and I hope that you find yourself a better person, a much more merciful, forgiving, loving person tomorrow than you were today, and that we all hopefully pursue the perfection of that, whether we get it or not. So be better, do better, be better to yourselves and better to each other. Appreciate you guys listening, man. On behalf of myself and Z-Rock in the building, that's his new nickname, Z-Rock in the building. It's a long nickname, but I'm coining it. I'm gonna put a little TM on it and trademark it, Z-Rock in the building. On behalf of him, myself, the Dayton Street Opportunity Center, the Fields Foundation, Maisha Fields and Company, want to bid you guys a good night and have a wonderful, wonderful life until I see you again. Be better, guys. Peace.
What's going on? It's your boy Phil Day.
Seems like the shots have been alleviated. I'ma check the TV playlist and ain't shit on. So I resume to the room to kick off my shoes. Then I find the radio to kick on the blues. Then I lose myself, excuse myself, and green rolled in tobacco leaf purchased off the back shelf. I must confess it's a shame when you're living in a state that's the shape of a box and nobody knows your name. But after a few puffs of the J, it's back to the drawing board, confidence regained. Too deep into my chest with a beat from Mikey Fresh. Red Dragon straining this shit hot up for the press, yes. We be kicking it old school and satisfying senses like we feeding your soul food. So get your city up, pretty up, and have fun. Spread love instead of hate and have a good and never bad one. Like
then you came and made my day. Then you came and made my day. Then you came and made my day. Then you came and made my day.
unattainable. Me and hip hop made a picture so unpaintable. I was a 12-year-old sitting at my doorstep. Didn't know the difference from a verse to a chorus. Yeah, found my first love on the basketball court. A natural athlete, a jack of all sports. Eventually found they would both coincide. It was Flip Mode Squad on my NBA live, screaming I. Spit a 16 standing in the lunch line with my corny punchlines and the college rule pad. Plus the braces in my mouth had me drooling when I rap. I was spitting in a cipher with a written till I learned to freestyle in my grandmama's kitchen. 12 years later, God presented me this mission. I got faith in my music, so I treat it like religion.
Then you came and made my dreams. 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 Then you came and made my dreams.
Yeah.
Then you came and made my dreams.
I love you, hip hop.
Then you came
It's for
and
you.
made my dreams.
So now I'm 29,
Bitch, I'm turning 25.
and I'm still missing the days of the ruined Jurassic 5.
I grew up on the later naughty by nature and
And the
eyes.
public enemy that always stood up for a cause, yo.
Okay, you got me. I rocked the Master P till I switched to West Coast, started bumping out
And
BCs.
that's okay, I used to do the Humpty dance, the digital underground wearing back to Satan pants. I used to sit alone in the far back of the class and dream about a gangster's paradise while staring through the glass.
Man, back then music wasn't nothing that we stressed about. Didn't know lyrical rap was a messy route. Really used to mess around after class, letting out beatboxing, breakdancing in the whole chicken
So the
loud.
moral of the story, 2 peas in a pie.
And we stuck in this mindset we call hip hop.